Kenya is going to explode someday, and explode very badly too. It will either explode in President William Ruto's face, or in the face of the next president, or the one after. But it's going to explode.
It's going to happen.
What we are doing in this country today, people thinking that leadership is about self-enrichment, and that self-enrichment is through theft from public coffers. It is unsustainable. The sons and daughters of these people are going to be disgraced exiles and refugees in the cold lands of this world when that happens. And some of them are going to rot in jail because they tend to think that the solution is now to incarcerate those who compete against them, and those who speak against them, they will pay the price.
Hey there, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa, a bright day here in Africa. Of course, I have one of the best analysts. We have political scientists, I believe, governance experts. Which one do you want to use mostly?
Why do you believe?
Because I have followed you and your analysis.
René Descartes, a famous French philosopher, said, I believe. And when he said, I believe, which is basically to say, I think, therefore I know, I am. And he said, I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I know that I am. So we have to be very sure whether you believe because you doubt or why.
I believe because I know.
Okay.
Is it? Yes, I have none other than Barrack Muluka, doctor.
Knowledge and belief are contraindicated.
At the same time.
Yeah, they don't go together. We believe that which has no proof. That which has proof, we know.
But when it comes to faith matters,
we believe because we don't know.
People have some
No,
people
that's
may
why
argue.
we have been told to trust and obey.
Yeah.
For there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Because we've never seen Jesus, and in fact, Christ has told us, if you doubt me whom you have seen, how will you believe my Father whom you have not seen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I told you. I was sure it was going to begin somewhere. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Very well.
It's been a while.
Been a while. Good to have you here.
I'm happy to be back here.
Where have you been?
Around the world in 80 days.
80? Wow.
Around the world in 80 days.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
And we are hosting you just a few days after we lost former Kenya's Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Mm.
What was your experience? I'm sure you met him, obviously.
Yeah, I met the late Mr. Odinga in many different contexts. I knew him at a personal level, and he knew me at a personal level. I worked for him when he was Prime Minister, and he was focused on being elected president in 2012. The elections actually were done in 2013, but in 2012 we were the team that prepared for those elections. We set up the Capital Center office, which went on to remain his formal working space up to the very end of the times. So I got to know him at a personal level. I traveled with him around the world, several continents, helping with the coverage of his activities. I wrote speeches for him, press releases for him, His family opened the doors for me to interact with them at close range. So I knew all of them, starting from the late Fidel to Rosemary, to Junior, to Winnie, and of course to Mama Ida, and the other relatives as well. So I knew him, and it's sad that he left us. For me, really, this belongs to the docket of sudden death, because I was not aware in recent times that Raila Odinga had a mortal ailment. Obviously, beyond a certain age and stage in time, we tend to have one condition or the other, and very often the physicians will be attending to us. But we understand these to be normal things. When somebody is about to exit because of ailment, normally there should be some indications. And I took the assurance from the family, especially from Mama Ida, that he was well. We were told he had gone out of the country on personal business, and that he would be back. And when we are told such things, we believe.
Yeah.
We don't doubt, we believe. And we believe because we don't know. Yeah. So I believed that he was well. I was shocked when my editors called me to say that Baba had passed on. And you know, even the way the news broke, the one who is breaking the news to you is asking you whether you know, you are in the know. How is Baba? Have you heard anything? No, I have not heard anything. We hear that it might not be very, very well, that he has left us. Have you heard anything? So he was shocked, disbelief. And I think even when we have been seeing him lying instead, we still didn't believe that he was gone. Some of us, at any rate, you keep on expecting that he will wake up from that state. But he's gone. So he's gone and gone. So we have to accept and now reckon with the reality in the post-Raila Odinga days. May his soul rest in peace.
Yeah. And it's becoming very hard to refer to him as the late, because every day we stayed and we were so used to say opposition leader or Prime Minister Raila Odinga says this and that. And even now there were, imaginary that he should be mourning someone, not us mourning him.
Well, we are mortal. And since we are mortal, we are going to die. There's a saying in my village that a young man may die, but an old man will certainly die. So that has happened. He has died. But there are also certain kinds of individuals who occupy public space in a very significant manner, such that they die only in the sense that they physically depart from us, but they continue living with us. And Raila Amolo Odinga is going to be one of those ones who are going to live with us for the longest time. His spirit will remain, and it's going to disturb people. It is already disturbing people.
In a good or a bad way?
In both ways, but disturbance by nature is indicated negatively. So it's going to disturb people. It's going to prick the conscience of political actors especially. We have seen that those who took parasitic residence in his presence are already at a loss. In the manner of speaking, as I have stated before elsewhere, there were parasites and there were warriors. within his environment. The warriors have embraced his spirit, and they want to further it and to take it on to the next generation and the one after, in the manner of passing the baton from one relay runner to the other. But there are also the parasites, and the parasites only saw him the way you see a host, the way the louse sees a host, the way the tick sees a host. It has got to be hosted. If it is not being hosted, it will die. So there are those political parasites who had lodged in Raila Odinga's body, and since he has died and is being buried, they are looking for a new host. And you have seen them being very loud, very, very, very loud in their proclamation of where their new home is, who their new leader is. That is parasitism. They do not have any political value, clout, or mileage of their own, and they will always look for somebody from whose coattails they must swing. And they have been very loud telling us, oh, Baba left us here. We are not going to live here. Baba told us never to leave. Did they know that he was going to die? Did he give them valedictory remarks and messages and telling them, I'm now going, behold, I leave, and where I have placed you, stay there, do not depart from that place?
Of course not.
Of course not.
And someone argued the same Baba they're telling us told them to stay wherever, also said that CDF is illegal, but you have a choice of what they want to say.
Yes, he told them about CDF. He kept questioning the logic behind CDF in an environment in which we have devolved government, we have devolved functions, we have devolved funds, and these funds need to go to one center in the devolved government and undertake those duties that have been allocated to county government by the Constitution of Kenya. But you are also insinuating yourself into that space, saying we, the MPs, also need. The role of the MP is not executive. They are craving executive functions, not because they know how to execute them, but because they use them to ingratiate themselves with the public, to get there and say that on such and such a day, I'm going to be issuing bursary funds checks to schools in such and such a ward of my constituency. And basically, you are using that to try and bribe the citizens, to inveigle them to believe that that is your money which you have brought to them. And then see how it's doled out in very thin pieces. It reminds you of salami slicing. And salami is useful in the sense that we eat it with bread. We make sandwiches. But this one is brought there as a little slice, giving you 1,000 shillings, 1,500, when your commitment, your burden, your school fees burden is 40,000 shillings. The MP comes with 1,000 bob. So Raila Odinga was saying, we don't need this. It should be consolidated. In fact, all these monies that different public entities are claiming to be doling out to schools, why don't we just consolidate them and pay to the schools or pay to whoever, and make education absolutely free without creating opportunities for quacks, dilettantes to ingratiate themselves with the public, pretending to be bringing money that does not belong to them. How can a conveyor belt tell you that it has brought you goods? It doesn't have
just a belt
anything of its own. It's just a belt. And these characters are just conveyor belts.
So it's just a selfish means that has been used by our politicians. But now, moving on to Raila Odinga, of course, he was key in Kenya's politics. He's been key for the last, say, 40 years, 40 something actually. How does now his exit change the political space?
In a very significant way, because Raila Odinga, at the apogee of his career, was the axis around which both the opposition and government defined themselves. He was the axis around which politics defined themselves. There were those who got what they wanted by supporting him, and there were those who got what they wanted by opposing him. The louder the opposition against him in certain spaces, the more heroic you appeared to be on that landscape. When, for instance, in 2013 and 2017, he was anathema in the Mount Kenya region, those who shouted loudest against him from that region got what they wanted. By the same token, those who praised him loudest from the converse landscape got what they wanted. So he became a defining factor in Kenya's politics. The government, when things did not seem to work, found it easy to punch him and say, it is this man. He became the scapegoat for them for things that were not working. And by reverse logic, those who praised him and cheered him on and renamed him from Raila Odinga to Baba and prostrated themselves before him got also what they wanted. So government will have to look for a new bogeyman, a new somebody whom they are going to make the punching bag. The freeloaders around Raila Odinga must find another champion around whom they are going to be freeloading. And we have seen that for some, the easiest champion is William Ruto. But we have also seen that there are those who are trying to step out of Raila Odinga's shadow, his ideological orphans, so to speak, the likes of Edwin Sifuna, of Babu Wino, of Caleb Messi. And one may be tempted to treat them dismissively and say they are going nowhere. Watch them, watch that space and see what happens. When President Moi exited KANU and the national political landscape, it did appear that KANU was in a quandary, and it probably was and remains, because Raila Odinga served KANU a sucker punch that left the Independence Party staggering, and it staggers on 23 years later. But you will see that there were individuals within that fraternity who quickly occupied the vacuum that was left. One of them was Uhuru Kenyatta, and the other one was William Ruto, and the hangers-on followed them. And you can see that after the departure of President Moi from that landscape, the person who took over from him, Mwai Kibaki, was the only predictable one because of the circumstances of the time. But see, the two Moi orphans, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, have succeeded Kibaki and succeeded each other, while those who are thought to have been giants, including Raila Odinga himself, fell by the wayside, and they had to go to seek accommodation in his space. And now the hangers-on Mr. Odinga are rushing in droves to endear themselves with William Ruto. They are shouting themselves hoarse. John Mbadi is screaming. You would think he's going to burst a vein to demonstrate to William Ruto that he is Nyayo Kamili. Gladys Wanga, who used to lead the choir and celebrants around Mr. Odinga, she's outdoing herself to try and prove a point to President Ruto. Ali Hassan Joho, who distinguished himself for his declamatory remarks against Ruto, has now turned the court of declamation into songs of praise. And with the same vigor that he used to swear that he would never get anywhere near Ruto, he swears today that he will never, ever be separated from President William Ruto. So this is part of the fallout after the demise of Raila Odinga. That space is going to have to rework itself. There are those who have been the united opposition, and then there are those who are coming from the ODM space. There were those who are in UDA who left because the Mount Kenya region left. It left. If anyone still dreams of Mount Kenya in UDA, that dream can only be called a nightmare. It cannot be a sweet dream. It's a nightmare. But there are worse nightmares coming.
So these leaders you've mentioned, because technically it's almost everyone in government, when you look at them and what Kenyans want, how does Kenya find its true North Star? Or where is our North Star?
Our North Star will be discovered through a very honest appreciation of our circumstances and recognizing that there are leaders who are servant leaders, people who think about the nation on the one hand, and the people who think about themselves on the other hand. To distinguish between the two and to decide that we are going to go with the people who want to serve. And you listened to the speeches on Sunday in Bondo. The distinction was very clear. You had somebody who said, for example, and if you doubt who it was, I'll tell you it was Hassan Joho, who said, when I first developed the ambition for leadership. When I first developed the ambition for leadership. He did not say, when I first developed a vision to serve the people. When I first developed the vision to lead. He said, when I first developed the ambition for leadership. I met someone who took me to Raila Odinga, who then made me an MP. Then I was made an assistant minister. Then I was made a governor. And now I am a minister. Absolutely nothing public-spirited in that proclamation. Or a chap who talks about how he used to be a student activist at the university. Then he found himself being one of the youth wingers around Raila Odinga. Then he found himself running for office on the Odinga ticket. Then he became a leader of something in parliament and a chairman of something in the party. And today he's in cabinet. That is what he celebrates. Totally short-sighted leadership, something that does not help at all. Now, if Kenyans are not able to tell the difference between the two, then our political geographical north shall continue to elude us. If we continue to look at people from the perspective that they have a lot of money and therefore they can fund a good election campaign, or that they have no money and therefore they cannot fund a formidable election campaign, we will continue wallowing in misery.
And I think the young people across Kenya, Africa, Asia have seen that maybe the leaders we have not been taking whichever country to the north that is desired. When you see these protests happen, I mean, Nepal has been successful, maybe. Madagascar, almost there. Morocco, almost there. Kenya, almost there. What does that tell you about the future of leadership across?
There's a wind of change blowing, if I may paraphrase Harold Macmillan and contextualize him in our third world space today. There's a wind of protest blowing across the third world, what Walter Lippmann defined as the third world countries. And it's a wind of change that speaks to two things that are tied together in a double knot. One of them is a political class that is obsessed with itself, with serving itself, with enriching itself, sparing itself absolutely no comfort, with a strong man in the lead, and with praise worshippers, sycophants and flatterers festooning the strong man. And they make him or her completely blind of the reality, the lived reality. On the other hand, you have a suffering population, a population that has no hope for a better tomorrow, and it is mostly a youthful population. Now, one of the things that define youth is ambition.
Yeah.
When people are young from early childhood, as they start developing their cognitive faculties. They look around and they start saying, when I grow up, I want to be this. When I grow up, I want to be like so and so. When I grow up, I like to own this, that, and that. When I grow up, this is what I will be eating. Youth thrives on the fuel of ambition. And they've been told things like, go to school. If you want to be those things you are saying when you grow up, go to school. Work hard, work smart, pass your exams. You will come out, you'll get a job, you'll be paid well, you'll be all those things you dream of. Now those people are coming out, and there is nothing for them to do. In a country like mine, their hope is in borrowing a motorbike and becoming bikers, or in being engaged to stand at the gate as a sentinel, a security guard, and flattering yourself with the thought that you are some kind of soldier, which you are not. And those fellows get soon enough to know that they are not soldiers, that they are just sentinels who are underpaid grossly. And you have a country or countries that are defined by excessive inequalities. On the one hand, there is abundant luxury. On the other hand, there's a surfeit of suffering and agony. And these fellows get to a point when they have nothing to lose except their chains. As Karl Marx would say, they have nothing to lose except their chains. They are able to run into live bullets. And you saw them in the streets of Nairobi saying, shoot us. If we die, we escape from our present adversity. Shoot us, but you will not kill all of us. Those who remain will have a better life. Now that's what's happening in the third world. There's a lot of bottling up of tension. If you look at a country like Tanzania, a totally autocratic nation under a dictator who wants to pass for the mother of the nation, but who lacks the milk of motherhood in her anatomy, who will abduct young people and cause them to disappear from the surface of the earth permanently, who brooks no dissent, no opposition, who does not even allow the leader of the official opposition to run against her in elections. Meanwhile, there's some false calm, and you think all is well. You've bottled it up under a lot of pressure. It's going to explode someday.
You think Tanzania is going to explode at some point?
Oh, it will. It will. Unless they listen to the things that we say on platforms such as this one and know that they are sitting on time bombs. Uganda is going to explode someday and explode very badly too. Kenya is going to explode someday and explode very badly too. It will either explode in President William Ruto's face, or in the face of the next president, or the one after. But it's going to explode.
It's going to happen.
What we are doing in this country today, people thinking that leadership is about self-enrichment, and that self-enrichment is through theft from public coffers, it is unsustainable. And I can tell you, and those who are listening and watching can write this in their notebooks today, that the sons and daughters of these people are going to be disgraced exiles and refugees in the cold lands of this world when that happens. And some of them are going to rot in jail because they tend to think that the solution is now to incarcerate those who compete against them and those who speak against them. They will pay the price.
Do you think, like, the East African leaders, because it's something that has been experienced, as we speak, we have Kenyans who've been abducted in Uganda. We had Kizza Besigye abducted in Kenya. We had our fellow Kenyans abducted in Tanzania. So is it that the East African leaders, or some of them, have decided to work with each other to continue oppressing the citizens and divergent voices?
That is their understanding of Jumuiya. And it's ironic that at the start and end of functions, certainly in this country, I don't know so much about Tanzania and Uganda and Sudan, Somalia, Rwanda and Burundi, DRC. But certainly in my country, at the start of any formal business, serious business, we stand to the attention of the Kenyan national anthem. Then we stand to the attention of the East African anthem. The East African anthem should signify something positive for the citizens of East Africa. It doesn't seem to. It only seems to signify cross-border totalitarianism, that South Sudanese dissidents will be arrested in Nairobi and be handed to the government of Salva Kiir for incarceration, that Kizza Besigye will be arrested in Kenya and be handed to Yoweri Museveni to deal with howsoever he may wish. And irony of ironies, that he is abducted not by the Kenya police, but by security forces from Uganda,
On Kenyan
defiling Kenyan soil and sovereignty. They should even have told Yoweri, let us do it for you and bring him to you. Abuse of our sovereignty, that Mwangi and Agatha of Kenya and Uganda respectively are arrested in Tanzania, tortured, beaten up, defiled, and abandoned, to teach them a lesson, not just because they've gone. Because what did they do in Tanzania? Mr. Mudavadi, when the matter was raised with him on live national television, he said, if you go to other countries and break the laws there, prepare for the consequences. He should have resigned that day if he was living in a properly democratic country where people in government are accountable. He should have resigned that day. His role is to intervene, is to tell his compatriot, his counterpart in the other country, that my compatriots came to the sister state of Tanzania, and we are concerned about their whereabouts. They seem to be missing. Could you kindly look into the matter and sustain that pressure? Instead, he's telling us that we are paying the price of breaking. Which law did Mwangi and Agatha break in Tanzania? Which law have Bob and Nicholas broken in Uganda? And if they have broken the law, is not the done thing for them to be arraigned before the courts of that country? And if found guilty, to be dealt with in line with the penal code, and at the end of that punishment, to be extradited to our country. We travel on the East African Community passport, which we got, some of us, under a lot of pressure and harassment. I don't know how many people remember how the migration from the Kenyan passport to the East African Community passport was a crisis. People were queuing outside Nyayo House as early as 2 o'clock a.m., waiting for the offices to be opened at 8:30 a.m., looking for this passport. It means nothing. It means nothing when you go to the sister states that we sing the anthem. It means nothing that we fly the East African Community flag in every state establishment throughout East Africa. It means nothing that we have got a treaty that speaks of free movement of persons and goods across our borders to the citizen of East Africa. It means nothing. It's not worth the paper on which it has been printed. It can only boil down to one thing, that we have got square pegs in round holes in government, starting from the persons who occupy the highest offices in these countries and flowing down to the rank and file.
Okay. That is actually true. And to think of it, then if it's on paper, but the ink means nothing, it's really sad to be in that scenario. And hopefully they can work something around. The other day, during Mashujaa Day, the president of Senegal, Diomaye Faye, was in Kenya. And he spoke of how colonialists hurt Africans, how colonialism was bad. Of course, we all agree it was terrible, it was horrible for the people. And then my most interesting part, this guy, Senegal was colonized by France. Kenya is set to be hosting the Kenya-France summit. What's that about? And just there a few months ago, Rwanda had a problem with Kenya's president speaking to Macron. When you look at all these factors, is Africa working towards unity? Do we understand what our brothers across are doing and what works for them and does not work for them?
You see, if you have listened to President Museveni, you've listened to President William Ruto, you have perhaps heard them say they don't see the place of history in our curriculum. They say disciplines like history should be defunded. Indeed, they should even be discontinued. They speak almost cynically. And history is nothing but memory. Memory of where we have come from, memory of how we have got where we are. And from that memory, the ability to do a prognosis, to do a visionary projection into the future and say, this is the kind of future we would like to have. These are the kinds of friends and partners that we would have about us, and these are the resources and the like. The French were the least willing of the colonial forces and powers in Africa. They were the least willing to leave. Some would argue that it was the Portuguese who held on to colonies in Angola, Mozambique, Principe, Sao Tome, and such other places, Guinea-Bissau. The French left in 1975 after the fall of Caetano's government in Lisbon in April 1975. The French have never left. When Macmillan spoke of the wind of change, which I have cited in this conversation, in 1960 in South Africa, the wind of change is blowing across the continent of Africa, and the colonies have got to go. And African nationalism was in its element in the 50s and 60s. The French did not want to leave because they believed that the French colonies in Africa and elsewhere in the world were overseas French provinces. They called them La France de l'Outre-mer, the France of overseas. But you saw that in a place like Guinea, Sékou Touré, when the French asked the African colonies whether they wanted independence now or independence gradually, Sékou Touré said, no, we want independence now. And the French were very angry. They left Conakry and other Guinean mushrooming and sprouting towns without anything. They carried everything from the officers, even the smallest paperclip. They took with them to Paris. And they went on to put colonialism in another guise. If Kwame Nkrumah spoke of neocolonialism, the French brand of neocolonialism in Africa was the worst. That they continued to control the monetary systems, the military systems, the education, everything. Now, Francophone Africa is waking up. And it's telling France, no. Ça suffit. Ça suffit. Allez. Allez à chez vous. Go. Go to your home. Kenya, under leadership that fails to understand the dynamics of history, the civics of the continent, that places individuals in the Foreign Office, for example, who do not understand how the international system works, are embracing Macron in France and bringing to Nairobi a conference that Francophone Africa has rejected. It's going to be very interesting to see how many countries from Francophone Africa will be coming to Nairobi to attend this conference. It's going to be extremely interesting. Or if they come, the levels of representation.
What would be the impact in terms of our relationship with the Francophone from that?
It's already bad. It's not good at all as we speak today. There are undercurrents. There have been questionings. If Mr. Mudavadi were a sincere person, he would tell us that Francophone Africa has wondered, why? Why are you hosting this conference in Nairobi? This conference which we have rejected as Francophone Africa. So, who matters to us? Is it our African brothers and sisters, or is it the colonial masters who put us in chains?
When you look at countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, all these have army juntas in power at the moment. And we've seen them chase away the France militaries that were based there and closing the bases. When you look at the wind that is sweeping across there, the ECOWAS region, and then we have ECOWAS saying, no, we can't have them as our friends because now they have to have their...
Yeah, the juntas, the dictators.
Yeah. What does that mean for Africa? Are we working towards a common goal? Is that wind going to spread? Is ECOWAS going to survive, or is Sahel going to expand?
They are going to have challenges because we are not just witnessing the return of the men in uniform. We are also witnessing youth uprisings. So the tensions and the pressures are going to persist. And they're going to persist because the occupants of State House in Africa today lie when they say that they lead democratic governments. First, a majority of them get re-elected through flawed processes that can be defined as electoral fiction. Electoral fiction in the sense that some of them blatantly steal elections. The results do not reflect the will of the people. That some of them suppress even voter registration. They suppress voter turnout. They open up borders so that foreigners from other countries can come and register as nationals and register as voters. When that kind of person is in office and he calls himself democratically elected, I think that is hugely questionable. Equally questionable is the style of governance, because democracy is not just about casting votes. Democracy is about management of public affairs. How are you managing public affairs? What kind of laws are being enacted under your so-called democratic rule? Who are they serving? The cyber crimes laws that have just come into effect in Kenya, how democratic are they? Who are they intended to serve? The privatization law that has just been enacted, for example, in Kenya, who is it intended to serve? How democratic is that individual or that government that it is serving? So sometimes when you have these military fellows in uniform coming and taking over, someone tells them, you have not taken power democratically. If the taking of power democratically is what counts, then we must question those who steal elections, because to steal elections is not to be elected democratically. To suppress voter registration is not to be elected democratically. To deny the youth national identification documents so that they do not register to vote is not to assume power democratically. This person who steals an election is a thief, and that thief, having stolen government, is now ready to steal everything else that is available. I would sooner have Traore, who has not pretended about how he has acquired power, and who goes on to lead a reformist agenda.
So you'd rather that?
Absolutely.
You've spoken about elections, and Cameroon went to elections the other day.
Yes.
Paul Biya, who's
90-something, is probably 100.
what is it with African, even in Uganda, Museveni is going to election next year. He's 80, I don't know, somewhere, the late 80s. What is it with these old guards and wanting to be in leadership for decades?
It's not about them. Some of them are senile. It's about the parasites around them. These people are hosts. And the parasites who live off them are worried about what will befall them should the host leave the center of power. So they are the ones who choreograph the electoral processes, the civic processes that keep them in power.
What's the role of neo-colonialists in
I think,
that? Especially for countries like Cameroon?
I think we must take the responsibility ourselves as Africans. We can't keep on talking about the neo-colonialists. Africa is not the only continent that was colonized. We are not the only people in the world who are colonized. The nations that we call today the East South Asian tigers were colonized. We were richer than them at independence, which came at about the same time. They have grown and flown and gone. We are still here dithering, sniveling, and talking about neo-colonialists. No, we must start accepting the responsibility that the salvation that we need will come from within. It will not come from without. And if some other foreign power schemes to take advantage of us, they only do what is right for them from wherever they are. The international arena of nations is a competitive space, and each nation gets there with the intent of reaping maximum advantage for itself. Unfortunately, Africa is led by individuals who get there seeking to reap maximum advantage for themselves at a personal level. And that is why the DRC has got serious problems with its minerals, because of its succession of self-seekers. Kenya, the same. Uganda, the same. Tanzania, everywhere on the continent. You have these avaricious individuals. I always wonder where they think they will take these things that they loot. You know, Chinua Achebe says in Things Fall Apart, whenever I see the mouth of a dead man, I see the folly of not eating what one had during one's lifetime. We can put it differently. Whenever I see the mouth of a dead man, I see the folly of spending all your life grabbing things that you could never eat. Because even if you are told to stop everything else and now just start eating what you have looted, how much of it could you ever eat? And Leo Tolstoy, the famous Russian novelist, one of the short stories he wrote was titled, How Much Land Does a Man Want? You are so busy stealing land, looking around, scavenging for land and more acreage. When you eventually come to the end of times, they find a small space, 6 feet. They don't even try to go a little deeper because it is your land, it is your property. 6 feet. That's where they place you. So what is it? This whole obsession. Why can't you manage the affairs of state in a manner that spreads the benefit to the citizens?
Very unfortunate. And you know, when we read history in the 60s, 70s, when Africa was basically, when the wave of independence was moving across Africa, we had leaders who have remained as the Pan-Africanists we refer to. At what point then did Africa lose the trajectory? Because in the days of Kwame Nkrumah, in the days of Tanzania's Nyerere, you know, there seemed, even in the days of, I think, maybe Jomo Kenyatta before he lost it, there seemed to have had a sort of...
We lost it quite early in the day, because even when we were coming together in 1960, we were not of one voice. There was what was called the Casablanca group, and there was the Monrovia group. And one group was saying we need a unified Africa, United African States or United States of Africa. And Kwame Nkrumah was the foremost votary for that vision. There are others who said no. In fact, there was a nasty exchange. So shall I call it a tirade? There was a tirade by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. Nyerere apologized to Nkrumah posthumously and said Kwame was right. I was wrong. Because Mwalimu said at that meeting in Addis here, if there's a certain megalomaniac who thinks that he wants to amass power by making himself the president of Africa, we would like to dissuade him and to disillusion him that nothing like that is going to happen. We will remain independent African states. In the Charter of the Organization of African Unity in 1960 recognized the colonial boundaries that were left behind as the defining factors of both our territorial space in land, on land and in water, and our airspace. And we learned to gradually have very selfish agendas in each of those pockets that we called nation states. Ali Mazrui and Michael Tidy have called them new nations and states of Africa, because indeed they were new nations and states. We could talk about that some other day. But within those new nations and states, people were allowed, once they were in power, to do anything that they wanted, because both the Charter of the Organization of African Unity and the Charter of the United Nations spoke very strongly to what they called non-interference in the internal affairs of independent nation states. So Idi Amin could butcher tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Ugandans across the border here, and life in Kenya would just go on as if nothing was happening. Jean Bidel Bokassa would kill and eat human beings in the so-called Central African Empire, and the rest of the world did nothing. Valery Giscard d'Estaing would come to visit him in his empire, be fed on some of that human flesh, and be given diamonds to take back with him to Paris, France. And life just went on. And at the very best, the Organization of African Unity and the African Union after it, when it comes or has come together in the highest jamboree, annual jamboree that they call the Head of States and Government Summit, it is basically a self-serving dictators club. David Lamb has written very eloquently about it in the volume titled The Africans. They come there to scratch each other's backs and to see who has returned since the last meeting, to recognize that so-and-so fell, now so-and-so has come. And since in the 70s and 80s they used to be removed by soldiers, the African Union has become very sensitive to the men in uniform arriving. ECOWAS has become very sensitive, COMESA, IGAD, and the rest of them, because they are basically dictators' protection entities.
So that's why they are isolating them from
That's
membership.
why they are isolating them from membership.
Do you think at any point the rules will change?
In the distant future, when the African revolution that is now in its incipient stages comes to maturity, Frantz Fanon was ahead of his time when he spoke in the 50s and in the 60s of the African Revolution. It was early, because revolutions cannot be caused to happen. Nobody can cause a revolution. For example, if I speak on this platform here, and I say, I want us to have a revolution tomorrow, that will not bring a revolution. Revolutions happen on their own energy. When the time comes, the revolution is like the tempest, the tsunami. Nobody can stand in its way and nobody can bring a revolution. It's only the rotten forces in power who foment revolutions by failing to do the right things. And so the rot around them keeps accumulating. And you know, rot cannot carry anything. It cannot even carry itself. In the fullness of time, rot will collapse. And when it collapses, a new order is born. When that new order is born, it will define the rules afresh.
Very interesting. I love that, and I hope we live to experience the full African revolution, because it would be a new Africa, so to say. You know, we always had Africa rising, but really we do not see the rise, the end of it, or, you know, or maybe it's because we're on the process.
It will come someday, maybe in our times, maybe not in our times, but coming, it surely will.
When just the other day, Japan elected its first female prime minister. Do you see that wind sweeping Africa? Of course, we have a neighbor who's a female.
We have but this one is on sponsored mobility. She got there as an appendage to somebody who carried the ticket. And now, with hindsight here in Kenya, we are saying if we had elected Mr. Odinga, maybe, I don't know. But in Namibia, they have elected a woman, and who seems to be very progressive. We are watching keenly. Those of us who believe in the goodness of motherhood, we are watching. And so far, she has had no missteps. We also see that her cabinet and government is hugely feminine. And it's just about time as well that that did happen. That the woman has been oppressed and repressed through history, through religion. Even the religions were made for men. Women as makers of history, marginalized. We can talk about history. Never her story. History. His
story.
His
Okay.
story.
I almost
Never.
missed that.
Never. Never her story. So we are changing. That environment is changing. Many years ago, when some of us were youthful undergraduates, the University of Nairobi here, the population was preponderantly masculine. You went to the offices, the population was preponderantly male. It's changing, and I'm a witness to this history. Now you go to class. I've taught university students, and I have been cheered to see that there's balance in some of the classes. We have even more girls than we have boys, more men than women, more female students. In the professions, the ones that are very competitive, we are seeing more women engineers, women lawyers, women doctors. And as a father of daughters, my heart finds joy to see that that is happening, that my daughters are not going to be condemned anymore to inferior spaces. That when I go to offices, visit these companies, visit offices, and you are seeing our girls everywhere, and they're very dynamic and doing very well, and they're more reliable and trustworthy. Of course, we don't lack the rare rotten orange here and there, but by and large, they are doing much, much better. And so it's part of the revolution.
Okay. A few weeks ago, we had the United Nations General Assembly, and African leaders, I mean, it's not the first time they're pushing that everyone wants to be included at the Security
Council, so that they can do what? So that they can do, that's rhetoric.
Is it important for us?
It is not. What is important for us is to get our act together on the continent. You don't go to international fora when you are so weak, so wretched, to make noise and make declamatory remarks that, oh, we have been oppressed, oh, we want also to have a seat on the Security Council. Which seat? A permanent seat? Which country from Africa? Which African Union is going to send an individual there, an individual country there, to do what? What Africa needs is to recognize its unique identity, its unique endowment with resources, its unique endowment with youth who are energetic, youth who have gone to school. Give them the right education. Some of them are even now starting to tamper with the education that they are giving the children. They don't want any longer to produce thinkers. They want to produce factory workers. farm workers. Factories are important. Farms are important. But you must have thinkers that now we deliberately want to embrace education that refuses to educate thinkers. I've read Hassan Mwinyi's autobiography, Mzee Ruksa. It's written in Kiswahili, and it's quite it's a huge thing. It's about 600 pages. I've interacted with it in the original language, Kiswahili.
Wow.
And he talks about education. He attempts to appreciate the kind of education that the colonialists brought to Africa. They just wanted you to learn enough, have enough literacy and numeracy to help you to weigh milk in a dairy, and to say there are so many gallons, and we have sold them for so much money. It was nothing like you are going to get a good education. It was an education that sought to produce factotums. And today in Kenya, we have a CBC, competence-based curriculum, that is seeking to produce factotums and other fellows who are basically handymen, not thinkers, factory laborers.
So, from what you have said, we need to get our act together and not just fight for this.
Yes, get our act together, define our space, find our own unity, find the scope for value addition to our farm produce, to our minerals and other natural resources. Our forests are being plundered in Central Africa, in West Africa. Our cocoa is being kited to overseas countries for processing, our coffee, our tea. My goodness, Africa, my Africa. What we need are patriotic African leaders who are not afraid to work with other African leaders to build a viable, production-focused African Union that opens up both tariff and non-tariff barriers. You see, here in Africa, even when we say we have removed all the tariffs, and of course we do that as a joke, because when you go to Tanzania here, get to Dar es Salaam, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere International Airport, with your East African passport, you will not see a queue there where they have said East Africans. There's Tanzanians, diplomats, others. Yeah. All of us are others. With your East African passport. And there's a Tanzanian entry sentinel who is looking at your passport, your East African passport, and he's asking you, what have you come to do here? Umekuja nini? Unafikia wapi? Utalala siku ngapi? Jumuiya. We cannot even get this one right. You go to West Africa, it is the same. Within ECOWAS, within IGAD, within COMESA. So we need to redefine ourselves, jail all the thieves in government, start growing our African economy as an economy, remove non-tariff barriers. If you try to drive from here to Matadi, DRC, even within their own country. They have tariff barriers, local tariff barriers. You see, DRC, for example, Eastern DRC, the goods get there through the port of Mombasa, which is a good thing for Kenya. I thank you, various successions of leaders in DRC. But they have their own ports. Port Nua is there. Matadi is there on the Atlantic coast. But they are not able to transport goods from there even to Kinshasa itself. Those are non-tariff barriers. It ought to be possible for you to take your leave and to say you are going to drive in your car, if you want, a caravan from Nairobi to Kampala to Kinshasa. From Kinshasa, you find your way to Cameroon. From Cameroon, you find your way to Togo, to Benin, to Lagos. From Lagos, you find your way to Ghana. From Ghana, you find your way to Cote d'Ivoire. And then you can say, now I've finished my holiday. I'm starting to drive back. But ordinary people like myself, we can get on the train, the speed train from Nairobi all the way to Casablanca in Morocco. When Africans have revisited their condition and put these things in place, when they go to talk to other people in the world, they will respect them.
Yeah.
I started hearing about the Great North Road in 1972 when I was in Standard 7. Fafa Jericho Primary School in Nairobi, 1972. The Great North Road, where is it? That it was a road that would lead us from Cape Town to Cairo. And it would be a road that defined itself as a multiple carriageway. That it would have an economy in its wings. That there would be railway lines crisscrossing the continent with bullet trains of the Eurostar kind of capacity and abilities. Instead, we get standard gauge railways that are 95 years behind the state of the art. Some of them are 100 years behind the state of the art. We pay 6 times what it would cost to do a proper electric railway line because we want to line our pockets with public funds. The people who come to do this work for us know that we are thieves. Then we go to Unga and we start trying to lecture them, making noise, telling them that they are mistreating us, and they are wondering, they are sitting there quietly saying to themselves, look at this thief. What is he saying? They know it is all hot air and nothing. So we must earn respect by getting our act right, our act together on the continent. Then we will get those people, Unga, not to go to New York, but to come to Nairobi, because you go where the resources are, where the power is.
True.
Unga should be happening in Nairobi.
Now that you've gone there, the UN is expanding Nairobi to be the biggest office for UN headquarters. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? And are we also going to see Unga maybe with the expansion come to Nairobi?
Unga is a good thing. And thank you, President Donald Trump, for losing faith in the international system, because the international system is looking for new homes, and it has identified Nairobi for many reasons. Our climate is good, the cost of living is good, the possibility for further growth and expansion is good, the space is there. But we need to get our governance together, because that is the fly in our soup, that we keep getting that one wrong. The expansion of the airport, which the Kenya Kwanza government wanted, is a good thing. It's a good thing for this country. We need to expand the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to become even 10 times as big as it is, because then you'll have all the flights landing here and taking off, and the international community coming here, and we make Nairobi the international conference center. Look at that. That even without thinking about other things, we can just focus on only one thing. If you had a visionary leader in State House, we could just decide we want to make Kenya the international conference center. We develop the roads, we develop the highways, we develop the railway lines, we develop the hotels, we develop the security, we develop the discipline, not this one of spaghetti motorbikes on the roads. Yeah? Okay? So that people want to come here. We make Nairobi the place to go. People come here, they visit our wildlife, our parks. We are the only city in the world with a national park here. Look at our river here, which we have abused, the Nairobi River, which we should be making clean and having good riverside hotels and lodges that people come to stay in and hold conferences. When we have done that in Africa, that the River Nile Valley is replete with resorts all the way from Jinja to Alexandria, then the world will start listening to us. When the River Congo becomes a proper resource that is used for the benefit of the people, the Niger, then the world will start listening to us.
Totally agree. As we close this conversation, because we could go on and on, your position on AGOA and what you think the next course of action will be.
AGOA was good to the extent that it was providing employment for some of our people, a few of our people. But we know that AGOA basically brought in place what you would call silos of production, of stuff that is not even sold to us, of stuff that is essentially not really even ours, through these EPZs. You go to Washington, D.C., and you go to the supermarkets there and you find very good linen made in Kenya, but you never see it in Kenya. You're getting hand-me-down stuff from Singapore and from Malaysia and such other places. But yes, it's a good thing to the extent that we are not doing our own stuff. Again, it's an African problem that should be solved by Africans. When you put the population of Africa together, we constitute easily the second largest market in the world after China. Probably with India also slightly ahead, but I doubt. The second largest. We can trade among ourselves. We have got everything that we need, except one thing, the political will.
Across Africa is lacking.
Yes.
Wow. I want to believe in our lifetime we will experience that change.
We have to believe because we don't know.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can do for now is to believe.
Believe. Fantastic. Dr. Barrack Muluka, thank you so much for coming through and sharing your time and knowledge with us. It's our pleasure. And hopefully we will have you back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
God willing, I believe.
Yes.
We will do it again.
Because you don't know.
Yes.
You believe.
Yes, I believe.
I'm going to be using that
but
sometimes.
I believe that God knows that
Yes.
I will come again.
Yes, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming through. To you who's been watching this episode, thank you. I believe also that you learned a thing or two. Have to believe. God knows you learned something.
That one you have to know.
Yeah.
But you also have to believe because sometimes we just watch.
Without. Thank you. Catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.